welcome to the 5th episode of YLC Chats. We have a really exciting episode today in our new All About Best Buddies edition, where we're going to be interviewing people in our Best Buddies community to learn more about Best Buddies and the programs it has to offer. Today, we have a really exciting interview with Julia Moluf from Best Buddies Living. And my name's Sophie, and we also have Ryan and Dana here from the YLC who are going to be asking Julia some questions so we can learn more about Best Buddies Living. So Ryan, do you want to get us started?
Absolutely, Sophie. Thank you. And hi, Julia. Good to even. My name is Ryan Hoffman. I'm from the YLC. I have a first question for you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background with Best Buddies?
Definitely. Thanks, Ryan. So as Sophie and Ryan mentioned, my name is Julia Moluf, and I have been involved with Best Buddies for going on 9 years. I was involved all throughout high school, became chapter president of my high school, and then continued when I went to San Diego State University and served in a few different leadership roles there. I also served on the YLC, so this is all very fun and familiar to me. And then I graduated from San Diego State University this past May in 2020. And then I was lucky enough to get a job offer for Best Buddies Living. And so I moved to Washington, D.C. this summer. And I am now the residential manager for Best Buddies Living here in D.C.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
I have a second question for you. For people who don't know, could you explain what Best Buddies Living program is and where it is currently located?
For sure. So when most people think of Best Buddies, they think of our pillars. And so friendship, leadership, and jobs have been around for a very long time. And Best Buddies Living is the newest pillar for Best Buddies. So Best Buddies Living started around 2 years ago. It actually originally started over in Los Angeles, but currently the only location is here in Washington, D.C. And the idea behind Best Buddies Living is to create an inclusive living environment for people with and without disabilities. So what that looks like is we have here in Washington, D.C., we have people both with and without disabilities living together in apartments, and we are partnered with Catholic University. And so our residents with disabilities are able to get a meal plan, have student IDs, attend sporting events. Things look obviously a little different right now because of COVID, but that's kind of what it would look like in a post-COVID world. And then additionally, we help our residents with some of those life skills. So things like grocery shopping, budgeting, taking public transportation. We work really closely with the jobs team. And then the idea is to make sure that it's inclusive. So we also have people without disabilities, and we all participate in different social programs together as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia.
Of course.
I have another question for you. How many people do you currently have at the Best Buddies Living resident, and what is the maximum number of people that can live there?
That's a great question. So right now I have 2 residents living here in Best Buddies Living, and we have room for up to 7 residents. So currently, as it's set up, we have 1 apartment for male identifying residents, and then 1 apartment for female identifying residents. And then within those apartments, each person has their own private room, and then you share a bathroom and a little bit of common space. So in total, we have space for 7 participants. And I am the live-in residential manager. So I live right across the hall in a studio apartment. And so I am on site for anything that may come up and just providing that support on an as needed basis. But we can have up to 7 people. And in a perfect world, it would be roughly half and half in terms of people with and without IDD. We're currently recruiting for more of both. So if anyone knows anyone or is interested in living in this area, it's a really great program. And we're super excited to continue, getting it off the ground in a post-COVID world.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I have another question for you. What types of activities do residents do together?
That's a great question. And I think that's what makes Best Buddies Living so fun, is those social programs. And I think a lot of them are familiar to people in Best Buddies. So we definitely participate in Best Buddies events with Virginia and DC. So one of the big things we've been doing is taste buds. This past week, my residents and I made dog treats. We followed a tutorial with the Best Buddies DC and Virginia staff, which was a super fun. And we also do group meals. So that's something that's built into the program. So we do have group meals every week. With COVID, as you can imagine, things have kind of ebbed and flowed in terms of how comfortable we are being with one another and, wearing masks and things like that. And so that's, we take it on a week-to-week basis when it comes to COVID, but we're really looking forward to doing more events post-COVID that have a lot to do with what DC offers. We're in a really wonderful location. We're about a mile from the Capitol building. So there is just so much that DC offers, from museums to monuments, all sorts of really exciting things. So I think we're looking forward to, in 2021, kind of taking advantage of more of those DC things as things reopen from COVID.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And is the living inclusion pillar for future activities where that they're going to learn how to take public transportation around the DC and other transportations?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people in DC actually don't drive. I think it's pretty common here for people to use the metro. So both of the residents I have now, they both work. One works at the Washington football team stadium and one works at Marshall's. And they both use the metro every day to commute to and from work, which is super great. And then sometimes they will utilize Lyft and Uber as well, if it's dark out or the metro is not running for some reason. But yeah, public transportation, especially in this area, is a big part of our programming and making sure residents feel confident when they're using public transportation.
That's great to hear because I know one of the things when living on your own is public transportation or driving in your own car to get around.
Definitely.
So thank you, Julia.
Of course. Thanks, Ryan.
How have you adapted your program to fit COVID guidelines?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this program in specific launched in March, which was so crazy because that's right when COVID was really hitting and getting a little bit scary. So we have been really cognizant of COVID guidelines when we've been launching this program. So I would say the first thing is that we've been following all CDC guidelines. So that's just kind of the basic, structure of our program at this point. We're doing things like temperature checks, making sure people are wearing masks. Something that is a little bit different about Best Buddies Living and compared to maybe friendship chapters is that we are living together. So kind of like when you live with your parents or when you live with roommates, like those people are kind of in your social circle and it's okay to maybe be around them without a mask. That's kind of ended up happening here at Best Buddies Living just because we are living in close quarters. And so we're all kind of in each other's pods. And I also think something we've done is that we're just making sure to really adapt to everyone's comfortability level. So even if it's maybe okay for us to go do an event somewhere in a museum, if we're wearing masks, if residents aren't comfortable with that, being indoors or, even just going out of the house, I definitely think we're taking all of that into consideration. But I would say the biggest thing is just following those CDC guidelines.
Okay, and what is your specific role within Best Buddies Living?
For sure. So I am the residential manager, which is a really fun role. So as I mentioned, I live in a studio apartment just across the hall from the 2 apartments that Best Buddies Living has. And I do a whole bunch of things, but I am the on-site manager, basically. So I do a lot of things like the programmatic aspects, so coming up with different events, planning our group meals. I also do a lot of the recruiting, so spending a lot of time hosting virtual tours, doing different promotion events, reaching out to people on Facebook who are looking for housing, and things like that. And then I'm also just here for the day-to-day things that come up. So if there's a leak in the bathroom or, the building's having an evacuation drill, those are all things that kind of fall onto my plate as well and just kind of come up on an as needed basis. But support system is really what I end up doing.
Okay, and what is your favorite part about Best Buddies Living?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am so passionate about Best Buddies Living. I think something that I didn't really know about until I was in college was the lack of resources for adults with disabilities. That was something that became really obvious to me once I graduated high school, and I had all these friends with disabilities who weren't really sure what their next steps were going to be. And so obviously getting involved in the college level was so wonderful, but even further from that, finding employment, being able to live independently, being able to have those life skills of cooking a meal or taking the metro, like Ryan mentioned, are so important. And I think what really makes our program stand apart from other living programs is that it's inclusive. So it's not just people with disabilities, it's people with and without disabilities. And I think that is so important. And it's just such a great need in our society for sure. Yeah, and cleaning the apartment, Ryan, all of those things, those life skills that you kind of need to live on your own or have roommates to kind of figure some of those skills out. So I think that's my favorite part, is just that it's so needed in this community. And I'm so excited that Best Buddies is a part of it, and hopefully we'll continue to expand across the country, which would be really exciting.
Okay, and if people are interested in learning more or applying for the program, what should they do?
Definitely. So people who are interested in learning more can go to bestbuddies.org/living. And there's a lot of great information on there. So the cost is on there, a whole bunch of FAQs, and there's also contact information. So there's an information form you can fill out, and those go directly to me, and I will get back to you with whatever information you're seeking. People can also reach out to me directly. It's just my first and last name at bestbuddies.org, and I'm sure we can put that in the description somewhere. But yeah, bestbuddies.org/living is the best way to get started for sure.
Okay, thanks, Julia.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you so much. This has been a really great interview, and I'm so excited we got to share more about this amazing program. It's Best Buddies' newest pillar, so I'm really happy we got to share about it here. And we will be linking the link for Best Buddies Living below, so if you want to learn more, you can click on that. And we'll also be linking Julia's email and her social media, so you can follow her and get in touch with her if you're interested. So this has been the 5th episode of YLC Chats, and we have some great episodes coming up. So stay tuned for more content and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Bye, everybody.